I'm super excited. We just unveiled the new branding for Flashtalking, and as you can see on the closet here behind me, we've got a sleek new logo that reflects our platform and positioning as we move into a cookieless future. Flashtalking's been around since 2001, so it's one of the OGs in ad tech. And over the years, we've built out a full stack on top of sort of the core dynamic creative optimization engine. So we have ad serving with built-in identity resolution and verification. Those were acquisitions by Flashtalking of Encore, D9, and Protected Media. And then in 2021, Flashtalking was acquired by Mediaocean, and we've integrated it into the Prisma buyer workflow to help kind of bridge the creative and media gap. Mediaocean also acquired 4C, which is where I came from, and took the platform we had built for social, and now that's all rolled up into Flashtalking. So you have open web, CTV, walled garden, all in one place, and you can go from ad creation to personalization to activation, measurement, and optimization. As for what it signals for the industry, we're seeing that digital advertising and programmatic have reached a point of diminishing returns. We've kind of squeezed all the juice out of audience targeting and bid management. So marketers are looking for that next lever to pull to generate incremental lift for their campaigns. And, you've got the backdrop of data deprecation, privacy regulation, antitrust suits. There's a lot of headwinds. And so as we move into this cookieless world, it's harder to get that precision with your placement. And so the way that brands are going to separate themselves is through creative. That's just what came out of some of the research we ran through Tech Validate. Marketers they're telling us that they've gotten as close as they can to that right person, right place, and right time with their ad tech stacks. And now it's about right message. And we're at this perfect moment with the rise of generative AI to take creative personalization to the next level. And from a Flashtalking perspective, we're helping advertisers create thousands of different versions of their ads in seconds, and then plugging directly into the publishers and platforms where they run. And that goes for open and closed ecosystems. And from there, we can iterate and optimize based on what's working best and make those media budgets work harder. We talk about this as kind of like unleashing the power of creative and advertising. And our mission is to be the leading independent ad tech platform for creative personalization and optimization across all marketing channels.
I'm glad you mentioned the research that you recently conducted. What else could you tell about what you found? Any interesting surprises or any other interesting findings that are informing your product strategy?
Yeah, earlier this month, we commissioned Tech Validate to run a survey. There was 100 marketers. They spanned, I think, 10 different industry verticals and was pretty well split around the globe. I think it was about a third Americas, a third Europe, Middle East, Africa, and a third Asia Pacific. And when we asked them what advertising campaign variable had the most potential to drive brand growth and business outcomes in the future, 65% said creative. I think something like 19-20% said audiences, and then the rest said bidding or kind of bid management. So, it goes to show we've hit a ceiling of sorts on targeting and pricing. And now the differentiation is going to come from creative, which makes sense if you think about sort of the pendulum that's been swinging back and forth in the industry. Starting back maybe 50, 60 years ago, it was, the Mad Men era and creative ruled the day. You only had a few TV networks and other media channels to advertise on. So what really mattered is what you said in that space, the creative. But then, over the years, cable, the internet, walled gardens, you had all this fragmentation, and creative and content and context took a backseat to audience targeting and programmatic and bid algorithms. And kind of now we've come full circle and creative's back in the driver's seat because we've eked out every last drop of efficiency, and we're losing signals for programmatic audiences. So it's kind of back to content and contextual and creative. But there's a gap right now between media and creative. I think something like 85% of respondents said there is a gap between creative and media execution. And the top three reasons that they cited in the research were lack of insights and intelligence kind of flowing between platforms. The second was siloed teams. And then the third was disparate technology. So, you can do all the personalization in the world and create all the various assets to meet consumers in the moment with a relevant message. But if you don't have teams collaborating on a common platform, and if that platform's not directly connected to the inventory, then it's all for naught. And so that's what we're doing with our product at Flashtalking. We've had the creative personalization piece since the beginning. Then we built the ad server and folded in scope by 4C for social and walled gardens. You've got the acquisitions for attribution and verification. And so the idea is to have one central platform as your command center, and importantly, one that's independent, not owned by a media company or one of the walled gardens, so that you can make the media work harder for the benefit of the advertiser, with no conflicts of interest. And so that idea of making media work harder is also something that came out of the research. I think it was something like 80% of marketers said that they view personalized ads as working media. So, we're not talking about some separate budget or line item. And when you have creative and media teams working independently, though, you don't get those economies of scale. And it's kind of back to the Mad Men days when, Harry Crane was stuck in the basement, and Don Draper, in creative, was a hostile environment. And, I think in the decades that, came after what was portrayed on the show, media took on a bigger role, eventually got spun out of the agencies to aggregate buying clout. And then you had sort of separate agencies, separate teams doing media and creative. And we're at that point now where we have to bring them back together, because you can't win on just buying media and audiences and bidding for the right impressions. The creative matters, just as much, if not more.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how you describe this evolution in media and creative. And so now media people, they know how to reach the right audiences, and creatives have an idea of what kind of message resonates with those people. And so if they're working together, how do you see this evolution being shaped over the next few years? What was a gap now coming together?
Yeah, well, I think, you see the silos starting to come down, and the systems being integrated. So creative and media teams are anchoring on a common platform with workflow that goes from, building assets all the way down to activating them in market. And that goes for all channels. And then, there's a big opportunity with intelligence, right? Don't make the creative teams wait until the campaign is over to, get reports that they can analyze to see what worked. I think in our research, something like 90% of marketers said they have blind spots when it comes to creative intelligence and insights. And so this is where AI and automation come into play. You can have the creatives auto tagged with different labels like product, headline, call to action, color, emotion, and all that can be deciphered by the AI. So it doesn't require manual inputs, reviewing every version of every ad. And then the system, as the ads run, can sort of isolate the variables and automatically make changes to the live campaigns to improve results. And importantly, that information is flowing back to the creative and media teams transparently, so they can see what's working and use those insights to fuel other aspects of marketing. Last year, Flashtalking bought a company called Drizham AI, and that's essentially what it does. And it's incredible when you see it in the platform as you're kind of going through the process of building creative. You can have it all automatically labeled, and you can see your intelligence dashboard and how the optimization decisioning is happening. It's not a black box like you'd have with the walled gardens, where you don't know what's happening or why things are happening. You just kind of see the outputs. And so here everything's kind of clearly labeled. You can export the insights out of the platform into your data warehouse or whatever other tools you're using. So this type of transparency and integration, I think, are things that are really going to help close the gap. And then from there, it's just a matter of aligning the CMO and CFO around the business case for creative ad tech, looking at personalized ads as part of working media budgets and holding them accountable to ROI outcomes. That's what we're all about here at Flashtalking. It's, unleashing the power of creative to make media work harder, make it work better, and just to plain make it work.